Welcome to the mentoring working group. We're part of the TAG contributor strategy group, and this is an official CNCF meeting, so it falls under the CNCF code of conduct, which can be paraphrased to please everyone be kind and respectful to each other. So can I ask somebody to drop the meeting minutes into the chat here, just so that we've got them in there? And if somebody would like to volunteer to take notes, that would be lovely.
Yep, can do that.
And so, yeah. Also, don't forget to add yourself to the attendance, which I haven't yet. So, this is a record of all the folks who were here. And yeah, I alluded to it earlier, but our first agenda item is I made a mistake last night. The long and short of it is it got fixed. We fixed it this morning. I guess it's 2 o'clock, so I just it counted as just fixed in the morning. But essentially what I had done is I was working on doing a sync merge into V2. And what I wanted to do is take what had been done in main and merge that into V2 so that when it came to this meeting and we wanted to talk about the V2 changes, it would be up to date. Now, my mistake was twofold. First off, it was later at night than I normally work. So lesson one is don't do that. If you're tired or confused or not paying as much attention, then be careful. And what I had done was, instead of opening the PR against V2, I opened the PR against main. And so what that did was it took all of the changes in V2 and just immediately put it into main, which is not my intention. So having realized I made the mistake, almost immediately, as soon as I hit merge, I'm like, wait a minute, that's not right. I created a revert PR and reverted that change, but some of the damage had already been done. And so what then happened was all of the issues that were tied to PR 733, which was our main sort of big, like, here's our discussion, that got closed because it was tied to the branch, the life cycle of the branch. And so all of the issues that were related to that this PR is supposed to fix got closed because thought, okay, well, it's fixed. The next thing that happened was I'm like, well, let me reopen a merge into main. And because all of the commits were there already, GitHub, even though when you looked at it, GitHub didn't see a difference between main and V2 anymore, even though they looked like a different file structure and things had actually changed. And so what I did was what's called a rebase, an interactive rebase. And so I went in and I rebased off of the last, I rebased main off of the last known good commit, which was, I believe, the Jaeger update. Yuri Churko adding another Jaeger project. And so what that did is I basically went in and I dropped all the commits that had been erroneously put in there, took out the commit as well as the revert. And so things now are essentially corrected, essentially. Again, some of the because when GitHub closes a PR, it's closed. There's no reopening a PR, so that's, we can still refer to it and we can still make comments on it, but that's no longer an open PR. So I've created a new PR, which is 899. I'm enjoying these same digit pattern that we've got going here as the new tracking PR. And I've opened a new sync PR to merge main back into V2, and it's actually it's there. You can review it if you'd like. In fact, I would like someone else to review it because this is the other piece of learning that I'd like to impart, and that is don't, especially when it's tired and it's late, don't bypass your branch protections. I was an admin on the system, and I'm like, oh, I know what I'm doing. Let me just bypass this and hit merge, and of course it blew up. And so I'm not going to. It's not in the wrist. I'm not going to do that again for anything but the most trivial of PRs. But so that's there now, and essentially, for the most part, things are where they should be. Which brings me to sort of the fourth thing I want to sort of bring up. I see your hand, Ali. We got this one last piece, and that is don't be afraid of making mistakes. Don't be afraid of making changes, because there's really not much that we can't undo or revert. And so if you do make a mistake, however, it's good to sort of get it out there and made a mistake, and don't be afraid to ask for help. So we do have some resources for this type of thing if things go sideways. So, Ali.
I just noticed this new PR, tracking PR. Maybe you can convert it to draft so that it is merged or something. I see there's a hold label, but without prow.
It doesn't actually, yeah, you're absolutely
right. Yeah, exactly. I just wanted to add that. And
I have now just created a draft.
Yeah. And maybe what was I gonna say? It's not a good time to introduce Pro or something like that, I guess, with this little number of people.
Yeah.
So
now that we have sort of more people, that might be worth noting and exploring. Historically, this repo has just been like it was Ehor running it, then it was me running it, and now we're building it out so that there are more people. And so Prow might be worth looking at, but that's also a lot of overhead for what is still just going to be sort of 5 folks or 6 folks.
Yeah.
But it might be worth looking at. I agree. Josh, hello. How are you doing?
Hey there. Have you talked to anybody about this? Because there's a set of GitHub Actions hacks, etc., that supply some of the functionality of Prow.
That's something that
Rob Kilty actually worked with II for a while. I'll go find the issues where we created Proud what we call Proud GitHub Actions, which basically take the Proud plugins and turn them into GitHub Actions or marry them up with GitHub Actions. In the work's not done, but he made quite a lot of good progress. It might be worthwhile speaking to Rob Kilty about that and see if we want to get some of that, because it's basically, as Josh said, it's GitHub Actions without all the overhead of Proud.
That would be interesting to take a look at.
10 out of 10 for your Git gymnastics night. Well done.
Thank you. Sorry I had to do it. It was, yeah. I had a moment last night where I'm like, it was a mistake. This is gonna hurt. I'm gonna stop now and look at it tomorrow. So thankfully, it's not a particularly active repo, so nothing happened between when I stopped looking at it and when I started looking at it the next day.
You could have just like hard reset main and then just force pushed, I guess. And
That's what I wound up.
Nothing
That's
happened.
what I wound up doing. I had to actually drop, like I said, on my local copy, I wound up dropping a bunch of commits, and then taking the branch protections off, force pushing the corrected main, and then resetting all of the branch protections. It was just, I was like, I just needed to get back to before 9:30 last night. So
real hacking.
learn. Yeah, like I said, one of the important takeaways is it's okay to make the guy who made the mistake says it's okay to make mistakes. We can roll things back. Nothing is there's no mentorship emergency in making a Git mistake, but I do like to when I do make a mistake like this, I do like to do the thinking around it to make sure that lessons learned are A, learned, B, and B, shared around. So thank you. I appreciate all your patience. Shall we move on to what I was...
Quick question. You're going to share your lessons learned with future mentees?
Well, actually, and this was actually, I was thinking as Rian was talking, I wanted to say, hey, Rian, I've actually shared your, 3 times now, I've shared your new article since you published it. Just because I've had 3 people come up and say, hey, this is something that I'm interested in, help me get into open source. Yeah, if one of my mentees, if one of my, like I'm actually helping mentor, I sometimes will drop in and actually help mentor in a project. And if one of my mentees came to me and said, yeah, I goofed up Git, that's absolutely a teachable moment. And it's a lot of people who, when they're first working with Git, because it's a big system and it's kind of a public system, so it tends to, in my experience, I've seen people get sort of wound up. They're like, oh God, I made a mistake, and now how do I fix it? And, oh my goodness, I made this mistake because I don't understand the system well enough, and now I need to fix it even though I don't know it well enough. And I really want people to sort of be able to sort of calm down, take a step, recognize that, okay, this is like, it's a history management, it's a version management system, and we can work through that, and I'm happy to coach people through that process. And even in this one, I felt myself going, oh man, what have I done? And I called Jiffy up. I said, hey, Jiffy, I'm going through this process. Can you provide a second set of eyes for me? And he was like, yeah, absolutely. It also helps to eat. I was getting grumpy because I was hungry, and I'm like, oh wait, yeah. And so there's a bunch of things that happen, right, when these types of things go sideways. But I want people to recognize that it's, and especially people who are new to these types of systems, you're going to make a mistake, and it's okay that you've made a mistake. And it's important to reach out when you're out of your depth. Sometimes Git is complex, and so it's sort of one of those things where yeah, people need to learn how to do it. And this is why I tell people, like, it's like I use the command line for most of my work, but there are visual tools out there that are very good and very helpful. And if that's the way you want to use Git, if that helps you, then that's a very good way to learn the systems. So that's my Git rant and Git learning and Git mistakes. So yeah, I would definitely pass it along. And the reason I was thinking about is I think that you mentioned Git and that tooling in your article. So yes, we should be letting folks know.
Nice.
Okay, so all that said, Rian and Jay, would you like to take the next section?
You're welcome. Thank you, Jay, or you want me to do it?
Usually the first part, I'll just take some notes and I'll add in as needed.
All right,
Okay.
let's do this. Okay, let me just find the right spot on the agenda because I was looking at the PRs.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically we've gone through updating the V2 repo. We moved all the things around. We went through all the changes we want to make. And V2 last week, Nathan, I did a update of V2 in the area of the mentee and mentor section. Yes.
Can I interrupt? Just, would you like to share your screen? Because I would like to share this, especially with Josh and Ali, because I'd like to potentially be merging this in the next week. And so I would like, so the new PR is 899, and that's in the thing. But we can show you like the changes, and we can walk through the changes that have been made. So thank you, Rian. Sorry.
Let me share that screen. I think I've got what am I sharing?
There we go. That's the mentoring repo.
Accidentally, I shared the right thing. I've got an issue with sharing my laptop. I'm so glad it's the right thing. Nothing untoward, but all right. So basically, if we look at the main branch at the moment of the mentoring repo, we've got all the different sections. We've got all the programs lying everywhere on the top layer file system, and then looking at the README, it has basically it's grown over the years into a jumble of information and archive information and administrative information. So basically what we've done, we decided we throw away nothing, everything has value here. And then we created the V2 branch, which is basically just a rearrangement of all the information that we already had. We basically we now put them into specific folders. So all the programs is in one folder. If we go to programs, we've got our archive for all the information, then all the active programs that's ongoing, and we keep this up to date. The README is active information that's currently valid. And then for every program, we have a subfolder with historical information. So everything that was on the front page is still here. It's just filed in a more more friendly way for people to follow if they're looking for something specific.
Yeah. So the idea is that we have several types of users, mentees, mentors, and folks like us who are the stakeholders. And so in the main branch, there was no real path or story to be told to help you figure out where you want to go. And so you're on your, so now with this new sort of landing README, we've made some changes here as well. Well, I'll let you continue, Rian. Sorry.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying that. Then if you look at the mentoring working group, that's basically all our administrative things related to the working group and doing the work that we're doing. Again, organized into files and folders, a more concise README just with the top level information, minutes of meetings, all the things of running this specific working group. What is outstanding, we did some work on it. It is a draft. So we cleaned up all the information about mentees and mentors. We had several files and folders, and which kind of would take somebody down a rabbit hole. And we thought, in the same way that we have the getting started in open source, we want to create one concise document running from start to end, explaining becoming a mentee, what's the mentee's expectations, support networks, programs, and so it basically just refer to all the information, and then from here you'll go into the program folder, look for programs, look for more information. Then we want to add success stories. There is already some information that we're going to put in here. FAQs, we started off, Jay did some great work here. So most of this documentation here, I think is Jay, and I don't know, Ali, I think you also contributed to some of this. So yeah, so fairly fleshed out mentee version. And then if we go to mentor, what the other thing that we try to do is keep telling the same story everywhere. And if we go to mentors, you'll see it follows a high-level structure, roughly the same thing, becoming a mentor, mentors expectations, and so the document flow is exactly the same, ending up with success stories and FAQs. So both of these sections is still a draft. So we will, it's nothing, there's no information missing from the main. It's just we are ready to merge this in as a work in progress on those two folders, which never existed before.
Yeah.
And then
So the
I
mentor
think that's about the story.
guides are mentor guide. So there's an issue about writing some mentor guide, and which is assigned to me, but I haven't done it yet. But if you think we can just merge it this way, then let's do it. I mean, I don't want to block anything.
Yeah. Can you go through this first page README here as well, Rian?
All right. So the README on the front page, we basically just introduce people to what is this initiative. So it tells you a little about mentoring initiative, tells you about the resources. It explains that it's in different folders, and so it gives you a bit of an explanation of the flow of the repository. And gives you an overview of which organizations is taking place, gives you an overview of the programs, and then refers to the code of conduct. So it's just, the README is a introductory document to understand how it flows, and hopefully when you've gone through that, you'll be able to help yourself around the repo.
And sorry to sort of jump back to that before getting back to your question, Ali, your comment. Yes, there are, the other part of this is setting things up so that moving forward, things are organized and obvious in their flow. And it gives us the opportunity to open issues and say, hey, these things need to be completed still. And that's where I think the work that you've been doing or looking at on some of the mentorship, I think you're referring to like the GSOC issue where somebody said, hey, we'd like the admin information around what it is to be a mentor in GSOC or an admin in GSOC. And so, yes, absolutely. And I think, Rian, if you open up our issues list, we've already opened up some issues around what needs to be done next and completed. So again, trying to reach out to the community to help fill in some of the gaps that we're putting. Like there's a lot of historical stuff that's been moved over, but we're trying to build this out with an eye to being able to share this as if it were a website and saying, hey, if you're interested in mentorship, go to mentoring.cncf.io. That will redirect to this repo, and you can feel comfortable in that recommendation that they won't be, the person that you shared it with won't be confused because there was just so much historical stuff. This is trying to say, okay, here's a way of managing and sharing information and processes in a way that's, I think, quite a bit more humane than we've been doing in the past.
Yeah, so to the issues, I've got the mentoring issue sitting over here for some work. And then code of conduct, there's still some thoughts on that I'll work on. Public calendar, we are busy working on the public calendars. I haven't followed up with you how far we were with that, right? And then these are basically the README is updated, the mentor first draft is updated, and the before and after diagram Jay and I discussed and said there's not much point for that because we wanted to map it out in a diagram to show where things moved, and at the end of the day it was just a cleanup of the structure of, and nothing got lost, nothing got deleted, we just added some clarity.
Now that I've made the mistake that I have, we are going to have to go through on that PR and really double check that things are where they should be. But I'm still fairly confident that they are. But we will need to. I've made this review a little harder than I wanted it to, but that's I think on me, and I'll make sure that I go through and check that. So, Josh and Ali, do you have any questions or comments or concerns or words of wisdom?
So I like the new structure much better. I was already reviewing it like some
Yeah, I
time ago.
remember. Yeah.
And it
I
was,
appreciate
so
it.
I like it pretty, I like it. It's pretty good. It makes more sense and everything. There could be some broken links from outside, like we can detect the broken links inside, like if there's like if there's a link to README, for example, which doesn't exist now, for example, we can detect it. I'm just thinking if there could be a way to detect those, like if we had like Google Analytics, something like that here, we would be seeing the URLs that are received. But on the other hand, I'm not sure if we should care that much about those, because, you know, this is not a super critical repository.
Yeah, as much as possible, I'd like to. I don't know of any automated system to do that in a repo. And I'm not sure if analytics would help us again in a repo, but that is something that I can take a look into. Maybe we can make a note to.
Jay and I discussed this morning. If anybody reach out and say, I would like to work on something, where can I start? We point them to this repo and say, there is a mentor and mentee section that needs more work. Please start there. And then we can open up another issue. First issue, what was it? Easy first issue. Just go to the repo, check all the links for us. That would also be a great how to get started issue for somebody to just click through the repo, fix hyperlinks, which I think there shouldn't be broken because we updated, but they could be broken before, because I'm busy working through another repo and I've discovered there is links that's not working anymore just because they're not, the other end doesn't exist anymore. So it would be helpful if we make an issue like that.
So
make an issue like
all
that.
thumbs up from me, like.
Awesome.
And when do we want to merge this again? You said next week, Nate?
I'd like to do it sooner than later, but I also understand that KubeCon is also coming up, but I don't want KubeCon to sort of prevent. Right now, we are in a bit of a slow week for the mentorship program. Everything is sort of humming along. The Google season of Summer of Code deadlines are still a couple of weeks away. KubeCon is a couple of weeks away. We just got past the season of docs deadline for applications, and LFX stuff folks are working. So right now is probably a good time to do this type of thing, given that I think that we're in a bit of a lull.
Yeah. Yep, sure. That sounds good. I mean, we want to definitely have this set up before KubeCon, I guess. So it could be something nicer to show people, right?
I would like that.
Yes,
Josh,
that would be nice. And the other thing is it will save you going through another refactoring of main against that. That will kill that
The
issue.
sooner, the sooner we merge this, the fewer chances Nate has to make mistakes.
No, you've been hard at work trying to keep these two things in sync.
Josh, do you have any comments or questions?
No, just let me know if I need to approve anything.
Well, I would like your approval on it. Given, because this isn't a website, I don't think we need like TOC approval like we would on contribute.cncf.io. But I would like some representation from the tag to do a once over and review and give it an LGTM. So I would appreciate that if you have the time.
Right. My problem is actually sort of comprehending the whole structure of it.
And that's why I wanted to go through this with you. I'm so glad that you're here. That's exactly why I wanted to spend this time in this call more as like a working session than a typical meeting, just because I understand it's a big shift, and so I'm happy to punt almost all of the rest of the agenda to talk through it with you if you've got questions or concerns or comments or confusions.
Rian, maybe can you open up the original V2 tracking PR? So there is a diagram there. I think you prepared, which kind of explains a lot.
Yeah, if you open up PR 733, it's closed now, but
Oh yeah, I was looking at 899. So
yeah, 899 is the new one. So I'm so sorry. 733 is the original one with the.
Let's just do this.
Yeah, you can just, that's a good way of doing it. 733.
yeah, and by the way, I think this falls under the heading of things where we don't need approval from our TOC liaisons, but we can, definitely send them an email to let them know that it's happening.
Yeah, that's actually a good point too. And eventually, again, I could once we're sort of on our feet again after my mistake, this repo refactor PR can be made not draft again to show that yes, it is ready for it's actually ready for review now. It's just all of the information about it is in 733, not in 899.
Okay, well, this is what links are for.
Exactly.
Mhm.
I think I put that in there. I think I did that. Yeah, replace the 733.
Nate is the master of visual display, and so
No,
you
this was
basically.
Jay. This was Jay, not me.
Sorry, Jay. Now saying Nate. Before this call, we were actually busy designing things where he's showing me how to make picture things. He's quite the artist. So this is basically an explanation of where the repo was, and then just the file structure. What is the thought behind the file structures? You just have your basic Git files on the front page with your README, your Mentee section, mentor section, working group section, and program section, and nothing deleted, just rearranged. And
yeah, I mean, I still want to think about mentees, mentors, and programs eventually becoming part of contribute.cncf.io website.
oh yes.
So not the working group so much, because that's doesn't really need to be on the website.
I agree, but as a first step, how can I say this? We needed to clean this repo up.
Yeah.
And so as a first step, this was part of that. And part of the programs isn't just the description of the programs, it's because we, in all cases, we do a lot of work outside of the program platforms,
Mhm.
right? So we do work outside of LFX mentorship. We do work outside of Google Summer of Codes platform. We do work outside of Google Season of Docs platform. The programs folders are still a bit of a mix of explanation and working folders for various things.
Yeah, so as stuff is ready, I mean, it might not be so much that the programs folder itself gets put in there as we get a programs page.
Yes, precisely.
Because it's the same thing, right? There should be one page about the working group, which then link, it says, here's the working group. This is when our meetings are. For more information, link off to this GitHub folder.
Yeah.
But this is good because it rearranges stuff so that we do have two folders, mentors and mentees that once they're reformatted could then be somehow copied off, moved something else to become part of the website.
Yeah, that's sort of how I guess some of the initial thinking went into it with structuring this in the first place. I mean, even that stuff there is obviously that proposed layout, that was when it was all going to be split across different files. And now, as you said, it's been reduced to singular readmes. But those, so we can scroll down a little bit, please, anyone. See there on the left-hand side, and there's a contributor.io, some of the things that we thought might sort of sit on the website and make sure that the stuff that's in the repos are complementary to that, so we're not necessarily replicating information either. And then below that as well, a sort of larger strategic thing in terms of how we might sort of structure that in a way with contributors coming into it for the first time. It's a little bit messy there, but looking at it from from an individual perspective and a career sort of progression perspective and how they fit in the wider community. So basically there's just a few ideas there in terms of the mentoring repos sitting as complementary to anything that might sit on the website itself. So that can be something we can unpack over time as well. But yeah.
And it might be worth a while to at one stage discuss with Caroline about the web page, because we did the Hugo page out of the README or the document for contributing. It out of GitHub, it just became the web page, so we can and also keep that format in mind when updating.
Yeah, 100%.
The only thing I want to, so I want to make sure that we're not letting that be a blocker, though. I don't want adding this information to the contributing website be a reason that we don't merge this in the next week or so.
No, absolutely.
I'm for merging it sooner than later as well, because I think even some of the content that sort of drafted for like the mentoring section, mentee section, for instance, like a lot of that is open to and needs to be reviewed. Like the approach that I've sort of taken with some of that sort of stuff, like there's a few sorts of angles in terms of trying to, we obviously talk lots about the personas and who we expect to be reading it and whether it's going to be beneficial in the tone and all those sorts of things. So I think there's a lot of benefit in come out of putting that out there to everyone to start getting everyone's feedback sooner, because it's going to, probably still take a lot of back and forth to flesh that out. But if the initial sort of structure's out there and people can, happy enough and it makes enough sort of sense there. I mean, because even the FAQs, I think I had like 15, 20 or something different things that, asking about, how can they eventually, build this from just general contribution into career pathways and all the rest of it. That stuff that they can all be its own sort of, talking point by themselves. So I'm definitely for putting this out there. I think we can get lots of traction between now and KubeCon.
Okay, is there any other questions, comments, concerns about this? What do we think are the next steps to move this forward?
So, sorry, one question. So
Oh, sure.
we want to merge this without doing the contributor.io thing, like moving stuff there, right? So I understand it correctly.
Yeah, I don't want,
Yeah.
I eventually want this stuff to get into contribute.cncf.io,
Uh-huh.
but I don't want to stop this process because it's not going in there yet,
Okay.
right? I think that
That's-
for me, the step is get this information merged in and then open up a follow-up issue at the contributor strategy tag repo level. That is a follow-up that says essentially, okay, now that we've got this information organized and set in the mentoring repo, we need to bring mentoring information up to the contributing website. But that's a separate issue. That's a follow-up issue.
Yeah.
That's a
I was
big-
gonna ask how we track that, and you already answered it. So separate ticket, yeah, that's good.
I think, Nate, once we just double check that your gymnastic didn't have a lasting impact, which I doubt. I think
Well, this is why we do the reviews.
just about the only possible way to review this PR is looking at V2 branch, looking at main branch and the appearance. I think because just the sheer amount of volume that we move around, can't expect anybody outside this group to have the bandwidth or the understanding to review the PR without discussion. So I think if there's no objections, it's good to merge.
Well, this is why I'm asking, and I know I'm putting a bunch of time on your plate here, Josh, and I apologize. But like Jay, Rion, myself, we've all been working on this, and I know that Ali has added a couple of pieces in as PRs come. But I do, I'm not sure that any of the four of us are like. I mean, I think we can approve it, but I don't want to approve it without a genuine sort of once over from somebody at the tag level.
Yeah, well, I also want to loop in Carolyn too, because she's good at spotting GitHub
Yes,
mistakes. Because my main concern would be just causing something to cease to exist, for example.
Yeah.
Because you copied one thing over another thing. So yeah, so let's throw this in the chat so that Carolyn sees it also.
Okay. So I'm going to invite so Ali, Caroline, Josh, Jay, and Rion as reviewers. I mean, some of you are obviously authors on this. And I'm also going to take this off of draft because it really is ready to be reviewed once we get PR 900 merged in. And Ali, could I ask you to take a look at PR 900 for me? Let's see if I can.
That one.
Just because, and the reason I ask you is because I think that you have got a sense of Git that, no offense to Rion and Jay, that I think you've really worked with it a little more. Now, how do I?
Yeah, I can have a look at it that way. Yeah.
I always have the hardest time finding where I can set a draft and where I can turn things off of being a draft.
There is a
Ready for review. There
Yeah.
it is. Just it's like I'm blind sometimes. It's just like I'm looking right at it, and there we go. So now it is ready for review, and really it's not replacing; it's actually superseding. So spell supersedes right. Okay. Okay. All right. So just looking at the time, are there any quick questions or comments before I move on to the KubeCon stuff I wanted to bring up? Okay.
Just one thing, sorry, just one
yep,
thing.
no.
So this 900, I just saw, okay, it's pretty new. So that is to resolve the conflicts on 899, I guess.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
900 takes main and merges it into V2.
Okay, that should resolve these.
Yeah,
Okay, that's
exactly.
good. So,
That's-
okay, I was just trying to understand it, like,
Yeah.
if that blocks anything, so, okay, yeah, and it blocks. Okay.
Thank you for clarifying. And please double check that I'm actually merging. The target should be V2, not main. That's first thing. So at KubeCon, there are three things I just wanted to sort of put into our agenda and have people aware of. I think a bunch of you are already aware of CAD contributor strategy, what we got out of it and what you could too, is happening. And these are all local times to Amsterdam. So if you're joining us, we're doing a talk. Come see us, come hang out, come ask us questions. That's on Thursday at 3:25. And then the other two bits I wanted to share is we are doing a mentorship office hours. So I was able to book a room for a couple of hours, and we are on the schedule under maintainer track. So this is geared towards chatting with maintainers about mentorship, how to write proposals. It's like having back in my university days, I was a TA, and I would have office hours where I would sit in a room for a couple of hours, and students would come in and ask questions, and first come, first serve. So the more of us that are there, the more people can ask questions of the mentorship crew. So if you're interested, please come on by. I'd love for it to be more than just me sitting in that room. But if it is just me, then I hope that we can spark some interesting conversation. So that'll be happening on Wednesday at 2:30 to 4:30. And then this isn't technically mentorship, but I'm doing the same thing with the Tech Docs open office hours. We usually run those monthly virtually, and I figured we would take that show on the road. So we're also doing an office hours for Tech Docs if people have questions about documentation or process or writing or anything like that. So yeah, and I think that's our agenda. Is there anything anybody wants to chat about in the last few minutes that we've got?
No, that's enough for me for now. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a lot. It was a lot, and I'm surprised that we got through everything that we did in the hour.
Thanks, Nate, for all your leadership on getting this refactoring sorted.
Absolutely.
Looking forward to get that wrapped down.
I don't want people to think that it was just me. It was a real team effort on this one. Rian and Jay and even Ali, you've thrown in a few commits on this one. So the next step is to review it and get it to land the thing. So
That's cool. And I'll come hang out with the office hours for a bit too. Definitely.
Thank you so much. Try and drag you along too. All right, everyone. I'm going to give you a few minutes back. Thank you for joining today. I really appreciate your time, and we'll all talk soon. Take care.
Have a good one.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
See you later.
Bye.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.
Have a good one.